audit on the town of Palatine, the State Department. And we have some different ideas and different numbers coming from that direction. And I have to have firm numbers for a budget by the 20th. So we gotta get together and maybe compartmentalize this stuff. Frankly, your diary and your numbers on what has gone on in these two villages is the most accurate thing we have to use. It definitely isn't the budget. And the State Department also, they put right in that audit, not to pay any attention to past budgets. That statement is right in there, and here we are, a year down the road, and I was trying to make judgments and do things that still structurally looks to me like we should be doing, and the legal opinion that I get is that misuse, misappropriation of funds is illegal, and we're asking for trouble to go ahead, especially given the numbers I'm seeing here. When we went from a 0 in our capital acquisition line to 300,000 between the 18 and 19 budget, that lifted what these villages had to pay. How that happened, I don't know. That wasn't my intention, and I didn't see those numbers. But there's a vast difference in numbers, and from what you have told us, the amount of work and the amount of materials and the capital investment is roughly the same on those two villages. And these numbers here for the 2019 budget are a world of difference. The Palatine Bridge is paying almost double what Nelliston is paying. There's a lot of trouble with these numbers. The trouble is in the town of Palatine's court, not these villages. It's interesting. They operate pretty steady every year. Our highway department operates pretty steady every year. And when I came here, when I was first elected, I found a lot of mystery between the boardroom and the highway department. A lot of the categories, which again the state said right in the audit, we can't go back historically and look for valid information there unless we take a line by line look. And when we come by a line, say appropriation A1110.4, in order to know what was spent out of that line, we have to dig out the checks. Because towards the end of the budget year, what happened, say you buy 6 tires or 8 tires, they go down and say it was $2,000. They go down the budget line until they find a line that's got $2,000, and bang, they draw it out of there. There's no way possible to know what money went where. Your records are the most accurate we have to recreate what went on. And I started out using the 2018 budget. My mistake, it wasn't an accurate budget. And then we tried to use a 3-year average. And the 3-year average just confuses it more. And you know how the budgets went for the town of Palatine, up and down like a yo-yo. All right, so we've got a lot of work to do between now and September 20th to come up with the expenses and come up with a plan. Now, to me, that's 2 separate problems. The taxpayers are the same for the town of Palatine and the 2 villages. The people in the villages are taxpayers to both municipalities. The rule for misappropriation of funds is using the funds for the town, which includes the taxes paid by Nelliston and Palatine Bridge, all throughout the town and in the 2 villages. The village of Nelliston has no control over the expenses in the village of Palatine Bridge. The town has no control. The one board member that was in here at that meeting that we had, didn't like the way his roads were plowed in the village of Palatine Bridge because you hadn't got back to it yet. And, you know, he had no recourse. His recourse should be with his board. The other thing that struck me too in thinking about this, we have really 4 trucks. Each village has a truck, and here we were buying another brand new one. We have 2 trucks, that's 4 trucks. You know, if we use the village trucks in the town Sanders, we'll have 2 trucks dedicated to that job. And if we keep the trucks in the villages, then these part-time employees aren't running Route 10 before the state gets a chance to plow. It does not make sense when you stop and think about it logistically. Now, the villages are unable to store salt. They don't have the facilities. Our salt facility is wanting. We're out of compliance. But Hank already has a plan, and I think we can deal with that within the next year. If the 2 municipalities, 3 municipalities work together, I think we can come out with something that'll save money from what we're doing now. A lot of it is in the trucks, the salt spreading equipment. We don't need those 2 salt spreaders during the winter, do we? You'd probably like to preserve 1, right, on a small truck, clean up intersections, things like that. So maybe we gotta buy 1 to satisfy everybody's needs. Or one municipality will have to wait a while, or you'll have to wait a while and have the 2 dedicated to the villages. I would rather, instead of this board trying to dictate to the 2 villages, I would much rather have a meeting once we get all these numbers so they make some sense, so we know how much money we're talking about. Our first rendition here came up with a $600 difference between what they're paying in tax and what we were spending. That's how close it was. And then you get to the next budget and it's $20,000 out of line. But the problem is with the town of Palatine, it's not with the villages. It's with our budgeting. In the past has not been what it should be. So you and I gotta get together, hopefully this next week. And Sean, you'll have your numbers cranked down in a form that we can understand. And I'd like you to give us a hand too.
Okay.
All right?
Very well.
And if the 2 villages are willing, somebody that has, or wants to participate in the numbers part of this exercise. If we can get the numbers straightened out so we all know roughly what the numbers are, then we can talk about logistics. Talk about whose truck and where it's garaged. The other thing that comes to my mind, there is a way that is not misappropriation of funds. The state has an arrangement where we can add items to our budget. All we have to do is pass resolutions at this table. And we can agree to take that on and keep track of the expenses and keep them separate so the taxpayers don't have a cause for action from any of the 3 municipalities. But in doing that, every time you change a tire or you change the oil in a truck, we have to identify what the truck is used for, and then based on what I'm seeing going on, it might even be a percentage of that truck's use. We'll have to hire another secretary. And that's just not in the cards for a municipality our size. Okay, I'd like to continue the discussion on this 3 municipal arrangement here after we have the numbers put together. Does any board member here have anything else or any other method you would prefer to bring to the table?
Well, I know there's some grants out there that might be able to help us.
With sharing of services,
Right.
yeah. Yeah. We won't be able to beg a sander, I don't know. But we have to have numbers first, you know? Once we have numbers and we know what we're talking about, even if, in the end, everybody thinks we ought to buy that truck, I don't know. I do know, I don't think we need any more iron, possibly a sander. But if we can cut the iron count down, that always saves taxpayers money.
But you mentioned the cabs, how much are the cabs gonna be, so we need 4 of those. For mowing?
No, the mowing is a separate issue.
Yeah, that's a separate issue.
Well, I'll tell you another thing that I caught wind of the other day that kind of scares me. The state is unable to obtain enough help, and they are considering hiring some towns to do plowing in the town's vicinity. This thing might get a lot more complicated fast. I'm not saying we're gonna jump in. Again, we gotta know the money.
The state roads?
Yeah,
We used to plow state roads. I got no interest in plowing state roads anymore.
I know.
Because if you do, you are gonna have to have a secretary in every truck.
Yeah.
Keeping track of exactly what second they got on the road and what time it was. And you're gonna have to have fancy counters to keep track of how much material's going down. Not gonna be worth it.
Well, we gotta open our ears, and there's a lot of bean counters looking for work, so.
Well, when the state, there's a lot of times when our trucks come up Route 10, they're plowing 10 coming up because the snow's bad on them. It's not like we drive through it, we plow it. You know, they get help from us all winter long. We don't get reimbursed for it, but they get help.
Yep.
You know, we don't throw sand down because they don't want sand. But the truck's coming up from, I'm gonna use Keith for example, coming off Dillonbeck Road, coming back down Barn. If that east side of 10's drifted, he'll plow it all the way from Dillonbeck right to Stone Arabia Road. Then he pulls in Stone Arabia Road. And if Berkey's coming the other way, he'll plow 10 coming from Kilts Road back if it needs it.
My main point here is I want our highway department as efficient and peeled down as possible going ahead. That's what I want. The way things are these days, consolidation of services is great, but all the information they're collecting and what we're sending to the state every day when we issue checks. They have Montgomery County right now exercising a grant to look at consolidation of governments within Montgomery County. The ones who aren't efficient are going to lose a lot of their local control. That's just where this thing is going. One of Governor Cuomo's favorite issues is we have too many layers of government. We gotta get smart, and we gotta count very precisely of the money that we're spending. It's no more than right for the taxpayers anyway, all 3 municipalities. So we'll see you next week then. I'll call you or whatever. You aren't taking the whole week off for the holiday?
I could, if you want me to.
Okay, all right,
Plan on it.
all right.
On second thought, I might.
Yeah, I'd like to entertain a motion to have a meeting September 11th at 6:30.
I'll make that motion.
The primary purpose of that meeting will be the discussion of the 3 municipalities and road maintenance in the winter. Okay, you made the motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, a second by Betty. Any further discussion? No further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
And this is for the purpose of,
Plowing and salting of the 3 municipalities, really. You know, it'd be wonderful if everything could stay the same all the while. Just doesn't. Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to accept the highway superintendent's report.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, Sean made the motion, a second. second by Hank. Any further discussion with Mr. Logan? Okay, there being no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, the next one up is the Justice Report.
I'll make a motion to accept the justice report.
Okay,
I'll second.
motion by Sean, second by Betty. Any further discussion on the Justice Report? What's that, 3 pages or 4? The Justice Report?
I think it was 4.
That's gotten rather lengthy. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Accept the Justice Report. Okay, under the same heading, Justice Report, in the board members' packet is a letter that I sent to the judicial people of New York State, sending them back their $30,000 for that 1994 grant that was never spent. They finally insisted that we send it back. Okay, Dog Control Officer.
Okay, last month I handled 4 complaints. I completed 1 rabies case. I issued 16 10-day notices for non-renewal. I had 2 dog pickups. And we had a situation here at the town office with a dog that was injured out in the parking lot. But the owner was found and it was all done.
Everybody hear that?
Yep.
You able to hear it? Thank you.
Make a motion to accept the dog control officer's report.
Second.
Chris?